Welcome to Rocking Philosophy Live. Thank you for joining me, whether you are in the live chat, watching the live stream while it's actually taking place, or whether you watch it after the live stream has been finished. But either way, apologies for all the noise here. I hate it when that happens, really distracts you. And still haven't figured out how to stop that happening every single time. There's no way to default mute a video before it starts, unfortunately. So anyway, moving on. Things have been quite chaotic of late since in the last 24 hours since prior to this live stream commencing, and it's not surprising. It's certainly not surprising that people are feeling quite flustered, and a lot of people are talking about the topic that I'm going to be addressing in this live stream, but at the same time, it is to be expected. We know where things are heading. We know what's going to be taking place in the future and how this platform is no longer going to be viable or a place for, not primarily for political content that isn't in line with establishment talking points, but as well as that, I think in general, YouTube is moving towards a kind of culture of propping up legacy media, mainstream media, and so on and so forth. And that's really the model that YouTube is moving down. So many of you will know anyway. In case you didn't know, I'd be surprised if any of you didn't, and that the kind of title of the live stream and the thumbnail will be a dead giveaway in terms of what this live stream will be about. But yeah, Steven Crowder's channel was demonetized, completely demonetized, after he got into a spat with a certain Carlos Maza of Vox Media. So, I mean, I didn't even know who Carlos Maza was until fairly recently. Quite frankly, I was keeping up with the situation via Tim Pool's channel, wherein this Carlos Maza character was trying to get Steven Crowder's channel demonetized. YouTube came in and said initially, we're not going to do anything because although this might be kind of teetering on the edge when it comes to what is acceptable within their guidelines for harassment, in the end, they said they weren't going to demonetize Steven Crowder's channel, and then they did. But people were saying, you watch now. Tim Pool was saying that this is going, if they demonetize Steven Crowder's channel, what's going to basically happen is he's going to see in the next phase of the YouTube purge, something that people have called Vox Adpocalypse or hashtag Vox Adpocalypse. But to be honest with you, I mean, there is so much to say as a content creator right now. I feel like just ranting, frankly, venting my frustration as to where things are going right now. I haven't got a huge YouTube channel, but I ranted last week on the last week's live stream as to where things are heading. And you have people like Computing Forever or Dave Cullen, who made a video talking about the way things were heading in terms of censorship and shadow banning. He made a video about that only days after the last week's live stream, the prior live stream I did, talking about how subscribers were going down and viewers were going down. That's exactly what I'm experiencing as well. I mean, it's getting worse and worse. I am experiencing growth, but I know that my channel is bigger than this. I know it should be more successful than this, but I think I've seen something that Dave Cullen said that really made me think, wow, that's got to mean something. Dave Cullen said he had his best month ever in March of 2019, this year. I had a similar thing. I think they were tweaking the algorithms. They were doing something around that time. And channels started to take off much faster. And then they rolled it back and they introduced a bigger restrictions. So it was the calm before the storm. So Dave, I've got that video in the link section if you want to check it out, the one I'm referring to it in relation to Dave Cullen. And that talks about kind of the build. I think that kind of sums up the build up to this YouTube adpocalypse, the next phase of this YouTube purge. So the establishment media, the left, they've got this down to a T now. They know that if they whine and complain and use the minority card to get their way, then basically, yeah, Gen Viva asks, who Dave Cullen? Yeah, that's who I was referring to previously. Dave Cullen at Computing Forever. But the establishment know how to play this game now. And they know that if they complain and whine and use the race card and the minority card, they're going to, YouTube are going to acquiesce. But let's make no mistake here, because there are certain people who still don't get this. Tim Pool gets it a lot more, but Sticks, Hats and Hammer is still talking about how this is a bunch of corporate fat cats round a table who are just thinking about profits. I mean, it's got nothing to do with profits. Make no mistake. Let me ask you a question. If it was to do with profits, why are Google destroying their profits? They've lost billions since they started this adpocalypse. Billions and billions. And yet here we are in this situation where they keep destroying their model. They keep destroying their model. So, it's not about profit. It's about a much bigger picture here. It's about establishing a sphere of absolute control over the world. Forget countries. We're talking about that's one part of it, of course, but it's the world. Now, there is so much that needs to be said, but we haven't got a lot of time. What I will do once I get a few things off my chest here is go through a rundown of what's happened via this YouTube Vox adpocalypse and what got us to this point and where we now find ourselves. But I do want to say this. This is really important. Really important. Look, folks, I am already on the alt tech websites. I'm on BitChute. I'm on Gab. I'm on Minds. I'm on Subscribestar. I'm on, I have an alternative tech account for every single big tech account. So for Facebook, I've got Minds, because Facebook and Minds are very similar. For Twitter, I've got Gab. Gab and Twitter are very similar. For YouTube, I've got BitChute. Obviously, those two sites are similar. They're video sharing sites. Excuse me. I haven't been very well, by the way, so I'm going to have to, I might need to cough and clear my throat from time to time. And of course, there's Subscribestar now, which is the alternative to Patreon. But people say to me, are you on these sites? Go on these sites. I'm there. I'm already there. I'll give you, BitChute, obviously being a content creator who makes videos, and a lot of my content is heavily focused around that. Obviously, BitChute is the thing I'd really like to see grow. Now, I do have a Minds account as well. I mean, I would like to see a lot more people on BitChute. We need this. But people are stuck in this plantation. They're stuck on this plantation. They're stuck in these ghettos. And it's all well and good saying to your content creators, go on these sites. But it's not us that need to go on these sites. You, the viewers, need to. You, the supporters, need to. And then we will go where you go, really. You're the ones who are the trendsetters. If there were more people on BitChute than YouTube, do you think if there were lots of viewers on BitChute, then lots of content, more content creators would go, and that would be how we get ourselves out of this mess. I mean, and on that note, things are so frustrating now. I have no idea how many people, when I talk about certain topics, I just feel as though I'm just not reaching my maximum audience anymore. The viewers are not getting notified. Subscribers are not getting notified. I'm obviously not getting recommended. That's in the recommended sections at the side of videos. This is something that people have talked about time and time again. But you the viewers, you need to basically come over to these platforms. You need to go over there and start supporting the content creators and watching the content you like. That's how we get ourselves out of this mess. We are in a ghetto now. We are in an internet ghetto. We've been herded into basically 2 websites online. You've got two major companies anyway, Facebook and Google, and obviously YouTube is part of Google and YouTube being part of Alphabet Inc. But there's 2 companies, Facebook and Alphabet Inc., that basically control most of the traffic on the internet. Years ago, people would go to different sites and they would kind of spread it out and spread out their support. Okay, the internet wasn't as big back then, but we have been herded into these ghettos by design. And whenever something new is introduced that will eventually become oppressive, invariably what happens is they make it look really good. They make it really good at first. They give you the best of it. That happened with cryptocurrency, for example. People made a fortune on cryptocurrencies initially. Now people aren't making anything. Basically, it's just a lame duck. And yes, I do have money in Bitcoin, a small amount. It'd be nice to make more, but I just can't help but think that that's done. The point of cryptocurrency was to condition us to a cashless society. And the internet was a bit like that. And now we've got 5G being introduced, which will increase the bandwidths so we can gradually immerse our lives into the internet until ultimately we can kind of spend our whole lives online to kind of, some kind of virtual world that connects us from reality. That's really where we're heading. And again, a live stream like this, I mean, my scripted videos are still doing pretty well, which is one big reason I know that there's an audience out there that wants to watch my content, but the live streams are really frustrating. I mean, I don't know whether people are getting notified anymore. And you can clearly see how the reins are being tightened as we're becoming conditioned to be addicted to the internet. But we're becoming the makers of our own demise. That's what we're basically doing. We're spending too much time online doing things that are pointless, and things that matter, that make a real difference, they're not actually, we're not using the internet for that so much. I don't know. I mean, that's a bit of an introductory rant there and kind of breakdown. But, no doubt my subscribers are slowing significantly to 2 months ago. Views are still pretty high, but they're nowhere near what they were. And I do get generally good engagement on my videos. And the views are growing on average for my Monday scripted videos, which tells me that my channel, or that my content is worthwhile. It's worth sticking to this. I have actually, this is not something I'm wasting my time on, because you have to bear in mind, from my point of view, I do have other income streams, but I'm not the primary. I don't generate the primary income for my family. I make up for that in many other ways. But when you do something like this, you need the time you spend on it. You need to justify with money you bring in. And I have got some generous supporters, but obviously, the more income that content creators such as myself are generating, the more they can commit to this. And we are really in a race. We're in a race to the bottom now, really, but not well. It's not really a race to the bottom. We're just people. The whole situation now is big tech versus alt tech, and well, not big, no, mainstream media versus alternative media, excuse me, and big tech versus alt tech. And they're trying to destroy the big tech and the mainstream media are trying to destroy the alternatives. And we need money to stay in the fight. So if we can't generate ad revenue, it all comes from you, the viewers, the viewers directly. And I know the reason why people are so generous is because they know how important this fight is. Because when I tell some people what I do and how I generate income, a lot of people are surprised. They think, wow, why do people do that? And I tell them it's because people realize how important it is that we have alternative media out there. People with an alternative voice. And the people who do support content creators, and for example, the great people that support me, they're more than aware that without their support, we couldn't do this. The problem is as well, the standard for for media online now is going up and up and up. And I am increasing the quality of my videos, which I'm sure many of you have noticed. And at the same, but that takes time. And time is the most valuable commodity, as the saying goes. And honestly, I really believe that. Of all the commodities, that's an old adage. Time is the most valuable commodity. But the truth is, that is never a truer word has ever been spoken. That is very apt. So we, the content creators, need more money to do this for more time. I mean, there are kind of single content creators who don't have, or people who don't have kids. They're in a stronger position. I have kids. I'm not single. So I have to think about, helping my kids with schoolwork and teaching my oldest daughter guitar. I've got 2 daughters. I'll be teaching my second daughter guitar soon and taking them to their clubs. And on top of that, other things need to be done in your everyday life as well. And then on top of that, you need to earn money because that's reality. So, we really are in a situation where the people who are trying to deplatform independent content creators, alternative content creators, they know what they're doing, but the mainstream media are struggling, and they are really trying to take out the alternative media before they're out of the game. But you've got to remember what we're up against. The mainstream media are part of one giant conglomerate, and the conglomerate involves the people who are behind banking, every industry there at the top of it, banking, media, everything, like from owning the biggest company, shares in the biggest companies in the world. A lot of these people will be CEOs and on the board of directors of the same companies. They're all in bed together. And the key thing is the way they control the system is through the banking system, the fractional reserve banking system. So, on that, that's why they have a lot more money than we do. So I don't really know how we're supposed to ultimately, the Chinese, somebody mentioned the Chinese, yeah. And no, I'm not just saying this is just Jews either. I mean, look at the Catholic Church. Look how much money the Catholic Church has. I'm happy that a lot of people are coming back to Christianity. Dave Cullen, on the day of this live stream, announced that he was a Christian. And I saw, again, he's a Christian again. And I saw him say something on Minds the day before, and I was thinking, God, it looks like Dave Cullen's going to become a Christian again. And these are things to feel encouraged about. People are returning to God. But please, don't go straight into the arms of the Catholic Church. Even traditional conservative Catholics realize that the Catholic Church is in a terrible state. Ultimately, that's what I'm trying to do with my channel. Ask the big questions. My journey has been about trying to find authentic Christianity again, but I digress. What I'm saying is, people like Dave Cullen, they are returning to Christianity, and that's something to feel really encouraged by. But we're in a situation where we're against the system, a beast, Go back and watch my video, The Mark of the Beast. And it's not just the Jews. It's not just one group. It's a series of groups in bed together. There are Chinese interests. There are Jewish interests. There are Catholic interests. The Vatican interests. There are the royals, the royal bloodlines. Until we can get to that point of understanding how this works and how they control us through the monetary system and how they can afford to lose so much money. How can YouTube afford this? Because they are being funded by the central bank, the IMF that controls all the central banks. This is what I want people to understand. It's unfortunate that, say, someone like E. Michael Jones, who I think he's got a lot of insights to offer, he's very quick to blame Jews for everything. And there are some bad folks out there who are so-called Jewish, right? But they're not, and they will criticize the Catholic Church. E. Michael Jones will say the Catholic Church is in a bad state. But I feel as though a lot of these traditional Catholics, they're very quick, they'll make out it was only since Vatican II that the Catholic Church went wrong, and it was great before then, and they will dismiss so much that the Catholic Church has done. Why is this important to this subject? Why is this important? Because we need to understand what's driving this deplatforming. I could sit here now and I could go through everything that's happened up to this point, that led us to this point, but I'm a big picture guy. And this is the big picture, folks. And again, you can probably hear my throat it's not the best. I was considering not even doing this live stream this evening, but I felt like so much needed to be said. So much needed to be said. The Bilderbergs, yeah. These are the big players. Somebody said Bilderberg. Brandon Devereux. You've got the Trilateral Commission as well. Brandon Devereux mentioned the Bilderbergs. You've got these big players at the top. These big special interest groups that are actually directing the rest of society, the rest of the world. And people will say, well, this isn't legally binding. What the Bilderberg talk about isn't legally binding, but they're enacting it anyway. Why? Because they are an elite group they're basically part of the same cabal. And they have disagreements. The Chinese will disagree with the Russians. The Russians will disagree with the EU. And so on and so forth. The Americans will disagree with the EU as well. But there are people behind the scenes, behind the curtain, who are basically directing everything. But this is fluid. These groups can be usurped. There are certain bloodlines involved with this. And this is the big picture stuff that I'm trying to educate people about. And when you see something like, oh, well, there's another round of the Adpocalypse. People like Styx Hexenhammer and Tim Pool, they have their uses. I enjoyed watching Tim Pool's content because it's very kind of middle of the road, milquetoast. He'll just tell you what's going on in the news with very little deep analysis at all. But in the end, we need to understand that there's something beyond that, behind that. And what's going on behind that is, it's literally what a lot of people have been talking about for a long time. There's a hierarchy, there's a pyramid of manipulation, and the further down the pyramid you go, the less people understand what's going on. How much does somebody like Carlos Maza understand this? Well, I'll tell you this much. The guy's a communist. And the disagreement that Steve Crowder and Carlos Maza had was largely based around Stephen Crowder making fun of Carlos Maza's political views. And he did it he really pushed the boat out. It's this edgy thing. I'm not interested in being edgy. Edgy is telling the truth. I just said a load of things then that would be considered quite out there. I didn't swear. I didn't use pejoratives or certain words that would put me in the firing line because they're considered offensive, you know. So slurs, racial slurs, this sort of thing, slurs based on your sexuality. There's no need to do any of that. The truth speaks for itself. There's no need to rant and rave like Alex Jones either. But I'll tell you this much: if you do those things, if you make edgy comments, if you do rant and rave and scream and rip your shirt off, you will get views faster. That's for sure. Maybe that's why. With me, they just try to stop my videos getting recommended, make sure that my videos aren't getting out there, aren't being exposed to as many people, but they're not going to necessarily remove me from the platform. I did have a video removed on the evening before this live stream, by the way. It was one I did on the Holocaust. You can see those videos on BitChute. I have 2 videos on BitChute now, three videos on BitChute that have been removed or put into limited state on YouTube. Over time, that's going to grow, isn't it? You're actually going to get more exclusive content on BitChute. So I think every time people come up to me and they say, I love your content, they discover my content. I get this all the time. I just discovered your channel a month ago or a week ago or 2 weeks ago or 3 months ago, and I watched all your videos and I love your videos and they're great and they're so informative and I've learned so much. I'm just going to keep doing that. I'm not interested in kind of taking the shortcut, because now the shortcut is coming home to roost. You know, Stephen Crowder likes to do edgy things. Sargon of Akkad likes to do edgy things. Certain people like to really push on the race issue all the time, for example. But that's not me. I just want to get to the truth, and the truth is massively nuanced. Okay, so I've been doing this for nearly 8 years, and I've covered so much in that time. And the reason is because, you know, I'm a seeker of truth. I seek the truth wherever it may lie. Okay, and I've started talking about feminism. That was the first thing I ever talked about. And here I am today talking about the occult and Christianity. And I was an atheist when I started out. And I can honestly say, very proudly in fact, and I will tap myself on the back for this, literally, I don't think there's anybody who's covered the amount of content that I have. And that's what's carrying my channel forward no matter what. But with all this censorship and these restrictions and the shadow banning and the throttling and everything else by YouTube, it does mean my channel's not growing as quickly as it could. It's frustrating. I don't get people invite me to their shows either. No major YouTuber has ever invited me to come on their show. Ever. I've never had anybody invite me onto their show. I've had some big YouTubers on my channel, but obviously I've had a few recommendations. Dave Cullen has recommended me a couple of times, and Sargon of Akkad has helped me in that regard. But no major YouTuber has invited me on their channel to help me grow, because, you know, I don't know. I'm not to everyone's taste, but I think one of the reasons is I don't really pander to anyone, because I go after the truth so hard. It offends and bothers a lot of people when I disagree with them. And I disagree with basically everyone on some level. So I've been speaking now for about half an hour. I hope that this had value. It's a summary of what's going on, but at the same time, it ties into how this is affecting me. I'm going to talk more specifically about what's gone on now by checking out some articles. Right, let's check out this article breaking down the Crowder-Maza feud. Right, I found a pretty good one today. It's on Human Events. I haven't really come across this website before, but nonetheless, here it is. That's the kind of image for the article, and it says, Crowder canned as YouTube caves to cry baby journo ban demand. I would call them cry bullies. So it says Vox's, I'm not sure what this, I'll read content. I've never seen anything like this. Surely it's not going to, I'm not going to press it, but I'm wondering if I press that button, whether it will start actually reading the article out loud. I'm curious
Vox's
now.
Campaign to
Well, I've never seen anything like that before. That's interesting. So it actually reads it out for you. Okay, that's interesting. But anyway, moving on. Vox's campaign to deflat platform comedian Steven Crowder from YouTube has snowballed into an avalanche of censorship against other creators caught in the crossfire in the war against offensive speech. Critics are calling it the Vox Adpocalypse. YouTube's actions in response to complaints caused confusion amongst both Crowder's detractors and supporters. Earlier this week, the left-leaning publication Vox went to great lengths to get YouTube to deplatform Crowder. This follows 2 years of Crowder's responding to Carlos Maza, a journalist and video producer at the Diminutive Media Group. Okay, so this is pretty much sums up, so that pretty much tells us what's been going on. This has been going on for some time, by the way. I listened to Steven Crowder talking about this, and it's been going on for about 2 years. Of the to and fro between Maza on Vox and Steven Crowder on Louder with Crowder. And it says here, in a series of videos over 2 years, Crowder took aim at Maza's leftist arguments with rebuttals. Okay, and there were comedic remarks thrown in there. Maza, who goes by Gay Wonk on Twitter, took umbrage with the criticism. He distilled, let me just check, you can read that. Hang on. Yeah, that's fine. You can read that just fine. Okay, Maza, who goes by Gay Wonk on Twitter, took umbrage with the criticism. He distilled Crowder's remarks down into a 90-second video, and this video is shown here. This is the tweet by Carlos Maza, clearly trolling to get Steven Crowder removed, but it wasn't about Steven Crowder at all. It was about everyone. This is how these people operate. They look for a catalyst and they use it to push the agenda forward. But here's the reality. We cannot blame this all on Carlos Maza. We cannot blame this all on Vox or the mainstream media. YouTube is complicit. YouTube is pushing this agenda forward for good reason. And the answer to, and if you want to know why, the answer is, who is the spider at the center of the web? We will never know who the spider truly is. If you ask me, it's freaking Antichrist, who's not on earth yet, right? But we are, close to the Antichrist are people who are serving this agenda, and then we go out and we continue out of the web until we get to people like Carlos Maza and YouTube, who is a company like YouTube, which is being controlled by people closer to the center of the spider's web. Okay, so this is what Maza said. Since I started working at Vox, Steven Crowder has been making video after video debunking strike through. Okay? So debunking is like a hate crime now. Because Steven Crowder makes fun of, Carlos Maza's mannerisms. And he's a gay man, a gay communist. So it's quite close to the mark. But it's edgy content that you would get on late night comedy shows. No different. In addition to demanding Crowder's ban, Maza spent days on end whipping up outrage about his feelings. He implored LGBTQ supporters to bombard YouTube with complaints, leverage Pride Month as a political weapon, which is exactly what it is. And people have said, but these LGBTQ supporters, they're going to get hit in a crossfire. Look, if you don't get by now that this is targeted towards people that don't serve the spider at the center of the web, then you're never going to get it. We are the targets. People like me and Steven Crowder. That's who are the targets. And if you're still going to continue to make excuses for that, then I don't know what to say. Tim Pool's moved on a lot, by the way. He acknowledges that this is against conservatives. But unfortunately, Stick Saxon Hammer still saying the same thing. he still seems to think this is really about a bunch of fat cats who want to make money. It's just not true. It's much more than that. Right. So Mars's company duly followed suit. That's the Vox-owned site The Verge breathlessly covered Mars's outrage, and other publications echoed his complaints. Okay, so you've got the Vox, you've got The Verge, they're all part of the same media group. And then you've got Newsweek writing an article titled Stephen Crowder Incites Homophobic Harassment of Vox Reporter, YouTube Slow to React, because YouTube basically initially said, oh, well, it's edgy content, and comedy can often be edgy. And for once I thought YouTube had done the right thing, and then I woke up the next day to all this. I mean, it's crazy. Absolutely crazy. And this is what YouTube wrote. As an open platform, it's crucial. This is what they said before they started deplatforming people. As an open platform, it's crucial for us to allow everyone from creators to journalists to late night TV hosts, as I said, to express their opinions within the scope of our policies. Opinions can be deeply offensive, but if they don't violate our policies, they'll remain on our site. Even if a video remains on our site, it doesn't mean we endorse support that viewpoint. They're not publishers. YouTube is not a publisher. So they don't get that. That's not something they need to concern themselves with. They just provide a platform. They're a platform, not a publisher. And then it goes on to say there are other aspects of the channel that we're still evaluating. We'll be in touch with any further updates. Bang. That's where I think, when I heard that, when I read that, I knew it wasn't that. This was the calm before the storm. And then Vox Media issued a response, a pathetic response here that I'm not even going to read, stirring the pot even more. But after more complaints from Marza, echoed by BuzzFeed News and Gizmodo, YouTube capitulated to the demands. The company demonetized Crowder's channel and stripped him of revenue. Now they want YouTube to ban him. It's never good enough. When you appease a bully, they continue to bully. And if these people are the worst kinds of bullies. And look, let me just pause a second. I have had experiences as a child dealing with bullies. I've talked about this before, but let me just break this down briefly. I was a little kid, thin, skinny, and I was, little Greek kid, a bit darker than everyone else. There wasn't as much immigration back in the 80s, so you stood out a bit more. Although saying that, there's a bit more to it than that. But either way, that was me. And I had a really tough time. I had a very tough time. I hated school, so the teachers didn't like me either, and boy was I singled out. The teachers wouldn't support me, and kids would get on my case. I would try to stand up for myself, but that made things worse. And I experienced how bullies would cry to the teachers, and they would become part of the bullying. So when I see this kind of behavior, to be honest, it triggers me. It triggers me because I know what they're doing. These are bullies who are trying to get the teachers to bully you as well, to be part of their bullying. And it's funny because I think Carlos Marza said something about middle school, how in middle school there are teachers. This guy is the quintessential bully in school, this Carlos Marza, who gets other people, the teachers, the authorities to take his side because he's a sneaky, I don't even know. I mean, you got to watch what you say. But because obviously anything can get you banned. But this guy is a sneaky, devious, horrible person who likes to victimize the people he's abusing by playing the victim. And this happens all the time. This is part of bullying. Weasel. Thank you, New Mail. This is part of bullying. All bullies do it. If you stand up to the bully, most don't go away. They will look for a way to actually get somebody bigger than them to take their side, or somebody more powerful than them. So this is where we find ourselves. And this is the most untalked about phenomenon within human psychology. Do I think Carlos Maza might have been bullied himself once upon a time? Maybe, probably. But I had a lot of issues in school. I did have my leftist streak, but I grew out of it. But unfortunately, people like Carlos Maza don't. They never do. So yeah, I'm not ashamed to admit this sort of stuff triggers me. It really does. It makes me angry to see bullies who are crying, playing the victims, and getting the bigger players, the authorities, to take their side and victimize the people they are bullying. Now, is Stephen Crowder getting bullied? No, he's not getting bullied, but Stephen Crowder can stand up for himself. But the thing is with bullies, they don't like a fair fight, do they? So Stephen Crowder is standing up to people like Carlos Maza, who are pushing evil ideologies that have killed millions and millions and millions of people. Tens of millions. And when he does that, Carlos Maza doesn't like it, because basically he's got real issues. Somebody who supports an ideology that has killed that many people and won't accept the facts. I'm going to just say it, it's psychotic. And this Carlos Maza wants to destroy the livelihood of how many people on YouTube? Millions easily? Millions of people who make their living? Millions and millions of people who make their living from this platform. And then people like Susan Wojcicki takes their side and talks about LGBT and this and that to make herself look good. Corporations are vile, right? When I was into my Michael Moore phase, way before I did this YouTube channel, the truth is that he was correct about corporations being dubious, being ethically questionable. But Michael Moore didn't care about corporations necessarily. He just wanted to control the corporations. And they're still just as bad as they ever have been. But now they're controlled by the left, so they're okay. Now, YouTube is a private company, so it can do what it wants. Unless you offend LGBTs. And that this, or other minorities. And this is what makes me really mad when it comes to the bullying issue as well. There are lots of people who are straight, white, normal people relatively, just straight, white and male, who are bullied. But are they part of this professional victimhood narrative? No, because there's no political capital for that. There's no political capital at all. And this ties into how bullying is cynically exploited now for political capital, but based on whether you're an ethnic minority or whether you're a minority sexual orientation. But there are so many people who are straight, white and male who are bullied, and they end up, shooting up a school or something when things get too much for them, which is completely wrong. But, we could talk about things like antidepressants in this regard as well, can't we? How they're just shoved on antidepressants, they're shoved on Ritalin, these young boys. Where's their voice? And that messes with your mind, the drugs mess with your mind and screw you up, and that's coming out ever more. The whole narrative of bullying has been hijacked by people like Carlos Maza, who is using it to deplatform content creators. It's sad. Truly sad. Anyway. What's that there? Okay. Right, I'm not going to read any more of this. I'm going to move on to another link, which is from Carlos Maza. Now, this is where we see the true hypocrisy of this man. This is where we see exactly what I've been talking about. Summarizes it exactly. Excuse me a second. Okay, so this is the tweet from Carlos Maza. This is what he said about so-called far-right people. Well, it comes from this article here. It's to do with the whole milkshake thing that was going on during the MEP elections, the European elections. Why milkshaking works. The far-right fears nothing more than public humiliation. So, again, you've got people just getting on with their lives, like Nigel Farage here. Here we got Nigel Farage. And he's basically just getting on with things, and then they try to milkshake him. Try to milkshake him, and suggesting that this is what we need to be doing with people that are so-called far right, and everyone's far right now, aren't they? If they disagree with these scumbags, that's the reality. Everyone is. But that gives you some perspective on what I'm talking about here. And what we have is this tweet from Carlos Mazza saying, milkshake them all, humiliate them at every turn, make them dread public organising. Bullying. Bullying. This is bullying by the cry bully. The cry bully. And this makes me mad. And and V pointed out in his video how this like blue check mark is like it's like a shield that protects him, and that's what it is. This says I'm invulnerable. Yeah, V's video on this whole Vox Adpocalypse thing, he mentioned that, and V being quite comical. I thought that was a nice touch. This is like a blue shield that protects this guy from accountability. And this is the section he highlighted from this article. I'll read this. It says, so this is what Carlos Mazza highlighted from the article I just showed, that he linked to. Getting doused in a milkshake robs far-right figures of the air of chauvinistic invulnerability that they spend so much time cultivating. They hunger to be taken seriously despite their racist views. They want to be described as dapper, to be interviewed on evening news broadcasts and weekend talk show panels, and to be seen as a legitimate participant in the democratic process. Most politicians to the left of Enoch Powell would brush off milkshaking as a harmless stunt. Would they now? So what about when, I mentioned this in a previous live stream, when Jeremy Corbyn got egged? That person was arrested and he's facing jail time. Hypocrisy of the utmost. Anyway, the last line here is, for those seeking mainstream legitimacy, it's another searing reminder that they don't belong. And here's the next bit. These predictions have not borne fruit. While there are multiple factors behind the decline in white nationalist rallies and marches, their fear of public clashes with Antifa appears to be one of them. Well, the reason why people fear clashing with Antifa is because if they defend themselves against Antifa, what will happen is you will be arrested. That's why. Anyway, let me try and adjust this. No, I can do that here. I'll adjust it. What's happened here now? That's strange. I can't adjust that. That's really odd. Here we go. So let me put this to full screen because you can't really read it. There you go. So that's why people fear Antifa. And it goes on to say the Unite the Right sequel rally last August drew fewer than 24 people to a public square in Washington, D.C. They were faced with thousands of local counter-protesters as well as a few dozen masked members of Antifa. The effect was intimidating and profound. When John Prescott got egged, that was like in early 2000s, and I mentioned it in my other live stream talking about this situation in the run-up to the EU elections. Again, that person got arrested and he got punched by John Prescott. When you are not able to defend yourself against people attacking you, then basically that is how bullies operate in school. That is what bullies do in school. They make it impossible for you to defend yourself because you will always be blamed. So you're faced then with defending yourself at the expense of you getting blamed, or you're faced with taking the abuse. This is where we find ourselves when the far right fears more than Anything else isn't a defeat at the ballot box or a temporary setback in policy making. It's the single shame that comes from being humiliated in public. I personally oppose violence in all forms, so I wouldn't be able to bring myself to throw a milkshake at the nearest racist I encounter, but I don't need to believe in it to recognise how effective it is at shaming the far right. Well, that's just a way of giving yourself a get-out clause in relation to what you're saying here. But again, that's Carlos Maza for you. Disgusting human being. This is what he's doing. This is what he's done. And then at the same time, and then he goes on to suggest that Stephen Crowder is bullying him. This man is disgusting. He's a disgrace. He's a vile bully, and he's a sociopath of the highest order. Anyway, a couple more things here. We've also got YouTube's response to what they did after they decided to remove Stephen Crowder. Well, to demonetize him, potentially even removing him long term. Let's be honest, that's possible. Let's move back onto this. I'll quickly read a bit of this. There's a few. I'll summarize this. There have been a lot of questions over the last few days about our policies on harassment, particularly around two YouTube creators, Carlos Maza and Stephen Crowder. These are important issues, and we'd like to provide more details and context than is possible in any one string of tweets. Since YouTube started 14 years ago, we have focused on providing a platform where anyone can broadcast themselves, connect with people, and share their voices and their experiences with the world. This has brought a lot of good. I don't even care about this nonsense here. This is what I'm talking about. That they're highlighting things that show that are virtue signaling, while they ignore genuine victims in society, victims of political repression, literal political repression. People that are having their cultures, their livelihoods, their countries destroyed by people that are sociopathic. They only really believe in one thing, and that's themselves, and their will to power to get what they want, and they couch it in this faux compassion. It talks here about how they enforce policies rigorously and regardless of the creator in question, which is a lie. Overwhelmingly, it's conservatives and right-wingers who are being affected by this. And then they go on to say here they need to update the policies in line with current problems. So now it's not about hate speech, it's about harassment. One particular challenge we face more and more these days is creator-on-creator harassment. There you go. So this is where we find ourselves. Harassment is also going to be included alongside hate speech now. And there's some other things I want to bring up here. These sections here are very, very important. This is what I'm going to read because this is key, very critical. YouTube has always had rules on the road, including a long-standing policy against hate speech. In 2017, we introduced a tougher stance towards videos and supremacist content, including limiting recommendations and features like comments and the ability to share videos. Well, that ties into what I was talking about previously. How ultimately we're really experiencing this now. I mean, my channel is growing, but through no real help of YouTube. Don't really get recommended anymore. You can't find my videos in searches at all. I mean, if you tap in certain keywords, no matter how many views I've had, you just won't find my videos. It's becoming more and more difficult to find a channel such as mine, especially with more popular topic searches or word searches. Okay, and it goes on to say this step dramatically reduced views to these videos, on average 80%. And I experienced that. I experienced how true that was, because I think, in line with what Dave Cullen said on his recent video on his Computing Forever channel to do with this censorship, he got a surge in March. They were tweaking things. My channel went skyrocketed. And when I say skyrocketed, I mean 500 subscribers a week and 50,000 views a week, which is a record for me. And they tweaked it back down again. So, yeah, that ties into what's been said here. Today, we're taking another step in our hate speech policy by specifically prohibiting videos alleging that a group is superior in order to justify discrimination, segregation, or exclusion based on qualities like age, gender, race, caste, religion, sexual orientation, or veteran status, and so on. These policies are so ambiguous. Nobody's going to be able to stick to them, and that's the point. To just kick you off the platform without any real justification, just because you don't toe the line and you don't align with the agenda at play here, which is being directed by those closer to the center of the web. I'll move on to here, which says, we recognize some of this content as value to researchers and NGOs, blah, blah, blah. Just some spiel there. That is a load of nonsense. And this bit here, I'm going to read a bit of this here. Reducing borderline content and raising up authoritative voices. In other words, they're going to get rid of alternative independent creators, and they're going to replace us with CNN, even Fox, the BBC, mainstream media. That was the plan all along, and it still is. And that's basically what's being summed up. What's being summed up here. I'm not going to read it all. There's not read it actually, because there's no point. That's just what it says. And they just, they're trying to euphemistically justify this. And it's all nonsense. But this is where we are. Our time is limited on this platform, folks. But before I call it a day, let me check out this tweet here. Just quickly check the live chat as well. See what people are saying. No super chats today, folks. I'll be able to read. Well, if any of you would like to give super chats, I'd be really grateful. And I will read some of the live chats in a second and interact with you more often. I'm just going to finish up with this. Here we go. Now, where is it? This is what I was going to go to. Oh, did it work? Yes, it did. Right. This is what Ryan Broderick, who's a journalist at BuzzFeed News, said. If you're trying to keep track of what's happening with the YouTube pib, you can follow BuzzFeed News updating piece here. But then he goes on to say, these are the people that have been removed so far. We've had, News to Share, Sinatra Says, The Golden One, James Alsop. These are the people that have been demonetized. News to Share, Sinatra Says, The Golden One, James Alsop, Stephen Crowder, removed, Thulian Perspective, video pulled, Gavin McGuinness. I mean, I've had a video pulled. You've had people like Iconoclast who have had like 6 videos removed. You've had Jesse Lee Peterson. He's had his channel completely demonetized. He says something here. Here it is. Jesse Lee Peterson. YouTube demonetized my channel right after taking down videos condemning anti-Jewish hatred by whites and Muslims. I always tell people to stop hating and blaming. At YouTube team, you made an error, do the right thing or whatever. And, this is where we are, folks. It's pretty sad. It's pretty damn sad. So, what final comments should I really have here? I mean, be very skeptical of anyone that's gone out of the firing line here. That seems to be growing and being very successful and remains very successful despite what everyone else is going through, especially when they're making edgy content, because they're only going to be, they're probably only being left there so they can be used for an excuse for the next phase of the YouTube purge. There are certain people that have been irritating me in this regard lately. But I just don't think it's worth talking about that now. It's not the time. But I am getting sick and tired of certain people who are just constantly attacking people that aren't on their team. And people who, let's put it this way, people who think that socialism is right wing, who act as though socialism can be right wing. I'll leave it there. Okay? And these people, they just attack everyone. And their only aim really is to use this kind of ridiculous 1930s Weimar Republic tactic of making sure there's only 2 teams left. You have to choose between 2 extremes, the far left or the so-called far right, which is actually just on the left anyway, which I've talked about many times. If people like that are still growing and growing and able to make money on YouTube, I would say at this point that they're being exploited. But there are people like Red Ice who have been demonetized as well, I believe. Red Ice has been demonetized. I believe Red Ice has been demonetized. I saw that somewhere. But it's not a good time. It's not a good time at all. Let's go to the live chat and see if there's any super chats as well. None at the moment, but let's see what people have said before I finish up. No white guilt, all videos deleted. Yeah, that's true. I have heard. Well, I didn't. All his videos were deleted some time ago. Should be banned. Brandon Devereux. Should be banned together with pagans to defend the white race from extinction. Look, if you make race is a byproduct of a prosperous society. If you're prosperous, you'll have your heritage, right? We need to become spiritually strong, and we do that through Christianity. I'm not going to start fighting for no good reason, but in the end, the way out of this is spiritual strength, is faith. And you're not going to get that with paganism. Paganism got us into this mess. The people behind this wanted to open the floodgates for paganistic traditions that date back to Mystery Babylon. It's a fine line, but I think we need people who have got strong convictions and strong morality at this point. No moral subjectivism, no belief that might makes right, and all this garbage that gets us into a lot of mess. We could reach out across the aisle in a lot of ways, but that will be limited in the end, because the only thing that's truly going to save us in the end is Christianity. And I think we are getting an awakening now increasingly. The awakening is growing. Zinguri Perezbaf asks, what happened to your nose? I burnt it, unfortunately. I haven't been very well. So I had like a fume bath with Vicks. And then unfortunately, I scolded it. But anyway, I'm not too well at the moment, which, adding everything else up, it's not it's not a great time. Okay. Elina Ethnigisti says, unauthorized TV is a scam. People pay money and it does not work. I won't read the last bit. I don't know anything about unauthorized TV. What I know is that BitChute is probably our best option at the moment. And that's where we really, that's where we find ourselves. BitChute is the best video sharing site. Let's see if I've had any more subscribers since I started this live stream. Yes. And, I do need to get a lot more if I'm going to be able to move on to another platform, to move on from this platform. Where did Michael Black go? His channel was shut down. As many others have. But yeah, this is the first live stream I haven't had any super chats in some time. I don't think I've had a live stream where I haven't had any super chats for a very long time. I'm not sure what to make of that. But I'm not sure whether that's something on YouTube's end or what. But, this is a time where, you, the viewers, have really got to step up and take the initiative. And Alleluia says, Black Pigeon Speaks videos deleted, not all, but some. His videos have been getting deleted and put into limited state for some time. Oh, no worries, Elinasa Ethnigistis. So I just read what you said because I thought it was an interesting comment. I'm just reading through. Kroiki says, Satan likes all religion except Jesus Christ he hates. Well, yeah, pretty much. Warren Yerman says, the Virgin that he gave me a $2 $2 super chat. The Virgin Pagan LARPer versus the Chad Crusader. Yeah, I I don't, as I said, we've got to be very careful at the moment because there are some people who are I don't want to have unnecessary feuds. But believe you me, when all's said and done, this is a battle, a biblical battle, a Christian battle, and more people are going to realize that over time. But that I've said my piece about paganism many times. I don't really feel as though this is the time to go into too much detail about this at the moment, because this is a time for kind of, let's just say, kind of uneasy alliances that aren't going to last. But we all need to move over to alt tech platforms and quickly. And you, the viewers, as I've said, are the way to do that. Right, let's see what else people have been saying. The story of JDCFF, it's a war between good and evil, exactly. And there's no other religion that summarizes the war between good and evil more than Christianity. No one does a better job because no one truly talks about objective morality more than Christianity. No religion summarizes it more than Christianity. It's the best explanation for evil and good, which is why we are moving towards times that are exactly like what's written in Revelation. And I will be doing more about that in the future. Breaking down, making comparisons of the world we live in now to the Bible, because people seem to like that when I did it. Okay, Trooper Investor, £4.99. Just testing, no questions tonight. You are doing a great job. Just stay strong. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Warren Yermond, $2. Our struggle is not against flesh and blood. It isn't in the end. It really isn't. And it's very easy to get distracted by flesh and blood and the material. But I truly do believe there's something more going on. It's textbook to what is read in the Bible. It really is. Right, I'm going to be wrapping up soon, so if you want to ask any more questions or give any more super chats, please do it now. Hopefully this stream was coherent. As I said, I haven't been particularly well. But, a bit of a technical issue at the end with that stupid situation where I've got to try and mute things as soon as I start live streaming, basically, I've got to mute straight away. That's what happens. I've got to introduce the live stream. Well, I've got to start the live stream, introduce it, and at the same time quickly go over to the screen, to the relevant screen, and mute the live stream. So it's quite a lot of multitasking doing this. It's not as easy as it looks. I mean, I'm okay at it. I'm all right. But, you've got to be able to, keep your thoughts coherent. Make sure you're listening, constantly listening back to what you're saying as well, in case you say something wrong. It's a strange thing to say that. But when people talk, often they do it on autopilot. So as you're talking, to stop you saying something that's which isn't accurate, if you like, or wrong, which is wrong, what you need to do is listen back to what you're saying, in that kind of pay attention to what you're saying. And at the same time, you've got to look through your notes and make sure you're not digressing. I'm getting used to this. But I would like to have more views and more people watching, obviously. I mean, I don't expect these live streams to be as popular as my scripted videos, because they're obviously they're kind of the creme de la creme of the content that I make. But, I just can't help but feel as though all this throttling of content is restricting my potential to reach more people, and it's only going to get worse, unfortunately. It's only going to get worse. There's another super chat there from Warren Yermond, $5. Do you think we are in the end times or just another Western Roman Empire collapse, end of cycle? I think if you read the Bible and go through the events and the stages of where we are heading, I believe we are in the end times. I think this is the final leg now. I really do think that. And there's lots of evidence for that. I've highlighted some of that in my video, The Mark of the Beast, and I'll be doing that more in the future. I'll be doing that much more. I could make so much content based on that alone. Brian Gilmartin says, I personally prefer streams since it's good to chat with people in real time. Yeah, some people do like the streams, but most people prefer the scripted videos. I mean, that's no doubt my bread and butter. There's no doubt. I like doing them, but they take a heck of a lot of time. Eric Lind's Age of Aquarius, precisely. And do you know what? Tim Poole mentioned this the other day. I mean, he was just saying, in passing, because we're talking about religion. He was talking about religion and saying that, a lot of people, we talk about the SJWs and, I was on this horoscope site the other day and it was talking about the Age of Aquarius. And I wonder what the religion will be for these SJWs. And that's the kind of thing you hear from kind of purple-pilled people like Tim Poole. He's so close. He is so close to just getting it. And I made a comment saying, You're so close to getting this, Tim Poole. I've talked about this sort of thing on my channel, hoping that maybe he'll reach out to me or check out my work. But this is where we're at. We're moving towards the Age of Aquarius, which is the end times. And we need to basically get more people to realize that. This is the real deal. It really is. Roxana Kwan, I liked him. I mean, he's a likable guy, but he's a purple-pilled kind of moderate commentator. You need some people like that in your subscription. I like people like that who summarize the news and give their opinions. But I also, he's not going to give you the completely red-pilled commentary, Anyway, that's it for another live stream. Particular thanks to Warren Yermind for giving 3 super chats. But thank you to everyone else, again, that did give super chats. And they do make the difference. They do make a difference because, ad revenue is going to continue going through the floor. But I'm going to try and get better before next week's live stream. I was going to do another Ask Me Anything live stream. But, there was just too much. I woke up this morning thinking, I haven't really got anything to talk about this week. I'm just going to do an Ask Me Anything live stream. And then all this stuff just exploded. And I thought, I'm going to have to talk about this. There's no way I can get around it. It's got to be this. Right. Thank you to everyone for watching. And bear in mind in future, we're going to have to get a lot stricter in the live chat. Certain words, naughty words, they cannot be there. You've got to be very cautious in the way you're talking because otherwise we can't have open live chats. I know this free speech is an issue, but this is, I was talking about this with Elinas Ethniki Stis before the live stream started. And yeah, we're going to have to get a lot more careful. We're going to have to be a lot more careful because they're just going to look for an excuse to throw the book at us. That's it for another live stream. Thank you for watching. This is Rocking Philosophy Live, over and out.